All the way across the sea, someone was being unloaded from a ship. His name was Lonnie. Lonnie is a steam engine that had just arrived on the Skyla Islands. Lonnie was a brand new engine, just made in a faraway land some people called the mainland. He had 4 bogie wheels, 4 driving wheels, and 2 trailing wheels. That means that people call him a 442 locomotive. He has a coal car attached to his backside. It is painted brown with yellow lining, just like him. The men that put it on him called it a tender. The men told him it would carry his coal and water for him, so that he could go on long trips to faraway places. Lonnie was excited by the men walking all around the docks. Some of the men stopped and pointed at him. Others said things like how big and powerful he was. After the men got their fill of the new thing to see on the island, 2 men walked right up and jumped onto his footplate. "What do you think of this?" one man asked. "He'll be a fine engine," the other man replied. "I hear they're making a comeback on the mainland." The 2 men were his fireman and driver. They set to work getting Lonnie into steam. As Lonnie was getting ready, a man with a nice brown hat was looking at his pocket watch when he looked up to Lonnie. The man had a hard look about him, and it made Lonnie feel worried. Lonnie looked down at the man, yet it felt like he was looking up. "Hello?" The big engine peeped out like a mouse. The man looked the brown engine over for a bit, then he walked around Lonnie before coming back around to the front of him. "You must be my new engine, am I right?" "Yes, I am, sir," Lonnie replied. "My name is Lonnie, sir." "Good. I am Mr. Dankworth, and this is my railway. I am its new owner. I have big plans for this railway, and you are now part of them." Lonnie was excited. "Yes, sir. I can't wait to start pulling trains to faraway places." Mr. Dankworth looked at his watch. "Well, not so fast on that just yet. First, we will need to get you run in a bit and see what you can do. Then, I'll line up jobs for you." He closed his pocket watch and looked back at Lonnie. "For now, go to the Masonwood charcoal plant just down the line. They will use you for a bit to give you a good test run. I'll see how you're doing later. You'll meet another engine who will show you the ropes." Lonnie did not know why he would need ropes, but he wanted to make a good first impression, so he pretended to understand. Soon he was up to steam and was moving. As he tried to leave the docks, he was stopped by a red signal. "Bother that." "Why stop me? I have places to be." Lonnie puffed off as soon as the signal came down to let him. "Now I can go for a good run and see more of this island." Lonnie left Kurth docks and charged over a river. Then he passed by homes and businesses, and had to slow down as to not make a disturbance. He kept on puffing slowly until he came to a red signal once more. "This must be the main line. Soon I'll be running fast down the line with a long train behind me. Oh, won't that be a grand sight for all to see." Just as he was daydreaming, another engine thundered by, going the other way past. The other engine was pulling a passenger train, and had the name Ernest and the number 5 painted on his side. Who was that? Before he could ask any more, the engine was gone down the main line. The signal dropped after, letting Lonnie go on to the main line. The main line kept going, but the charcoal plant was down a branch line that snaked into the woods. The trees in Mason Woods were as tall as the trees on the mainland at first, but as he steamed deeper, they got even taller. He passed by trees taller than he was long, and bigger around than his boiler. "My goodness," he said. His driver laughed. "Mason redwood are some of the tallest trees in the world. I forget how tall they are to newcomers." His driver looked at a warning board up ahead and put on the brakes. "Why are you slowing me down? You're spoiling my run." His driver started hanging out the window. "Keep your eyes on the rail now, boy. Never mind the run." When trees like this hit old age, they drop big branches and lots of pine needles. Lonnie was very unhappy with needing to slow down. "Silly trees. I can push past sticks and leaves. I'm a big, powerful steam engine." He kept on going, but at such a slow speed it took him a long time to make it to the charcoal plant. The Mason Woods charcoal plant owned and maintained the surrounding forests. Men would be taken out by train and dropped off all over the forest. Then the men would go into the forest with horses and carts. They would spend all day cleaning up dry stick litter from the forest floor. The men would move the wood to trackside. Then as a train passed by, they would throw it into the cars on the train. Lonnie passed some men hard at work moving and cutting wood. Horses were hard at work too. They were pulling logs, and even a goat was hard at work, being a goat. Only after a long, slow trip did Lonnie at long last make it to the yard. The yard was filled with trucks, cars, wagons, and carts. It also had a long shed that looked to be smoking. As he stopped by a very tall building his driver called the tower, an engine came up to him from behind. "Look what we have here," the engine called out to Lonnie. The engine that called out to Lonnie was a little red engine with 4 little drive wheels only and no tender. She was a Peckett tank engine with the number 2 on her side and a nameplate that read her name. Della, the nameplate proudly read in big bold lettering. Lonnie looked up at the little engine. "Della, is it? Hello, I'm here for some running in then." Della sized up the new locomotive with a glance. "Right then, youngster. As long as you listen to me, you'll be fine. This job is only as hard as you make it. Now Lonnie was insulted and interrupted her. "Me? A big, powerful engine listen to a little old Peckett? I am an Atlantic, the newest and most advanced engine around. I don't need you to teach me anything." Della only smiled, as if Lonnie had just told her a joke. "Okay, youngster, first job is to get a train of empty cars and some flatbeds, and go get wood. Just keep going until you're full, then bring it back here for me to shunt away." "Is that all?" Lonnie asked. "I don't think that even sounds like a job." Lonnie slid away to look for his train, leaving Della to work on her own. "Humph! He's not even new. Just newly made is all. I can't wait to see how this turns out." Lonnie was hoping for a job that would give him a good run. But his driver wouldn't let him go fast. Men are working here, and branches seem to fall like snow at times, so keep it slow. Lonnie was starting to get frustrated. Heading west, he made it to a switch that could send him onto the loop or to the main line. He was sent onto the loop. He made it halfway along the loop before his cars were full. Being full of wood did not seem to matter to the men. They kept on loading on wood. It was an overload, and it made him have to go slower. As he came back into the yard to drop off the train of wood, Della had another one ready for him. The east loop was next. It was longer, so the train was longer. It had a switch that could take him to the main line as well, and could send him to a far-away loop. The train was heavy and hard to move. He wanted to get some speed going to make things smoother, but his driver wouldn't let him. "Oh!" he called out. At this slow speed, the trucks and cars are just so heavy. The cars only laughed at him and did very little to help. When he made it back to the shunting yard, he was ready for whatever his next job could be. "Done at last! I'm done at last!" he called out. "I'm ready for whatever could be my next job." Della seemed amused. "Done? You need to do both runs 2 more times before you pick up the men and horses and bring them back here." Lonnie was shocked. 2 more? There can't still be more wood out there, he said. But there was. Mason Forest was big and in a healthy state of growth, thanks to the men clearing up the undergrowth. As Lonnie took more empty cars out, the trackside piles of sticks and branches were even bigger than before. If I could just go faster, I could keep up with the men. It was then that Lonnie got an idea. His driver was not paying attention. He was drinking his coffee that his wife packed for him. My goodness, that woman can make a good cup. This was Lonnie's chance. With all he could, he held back and did not try to pull the train. As the train started to slow, his driver was forced to give him more steam. His driver opened the regulator, putting more steam into the system. But Lonnie was holding back with all he could to not go any faster. Once the driver got Lonnie moving up to a good speed, Lonnie waited for his chance to come once more. It came when the driver picked back up his coffee. Pouring the cup for him and the firemen, no one could see that Lonnie was relaxing now, making full use of the steam. He was starting to speed up smoothly. At speed, the train did not feel so heavy, and Lonnie could at last feel the wind. "Ha ha! I'm moving at last!" The trees were harder to see now that he was up to speed, but Lonnie didn't care. "Ha ha! What interest would an amazing engine like me have in silly scenery? Now I can get this job done right. I'll charge down the line, and all will marvel at me." But danger was just ahead. On the line was laying a log-sized branch that had fallen since the last pass Lonnie did. None of the men working were at this part of the line, so no one moved the branch from the rails. Lonnie came around a bend and was moving much too fast to see what lay just ahead. It all happened so fast Lonnie did not know what was going on. He hit the branch, and instead of moving it out of the way or braking, it jumped under his front bogie and lifted his wheels off the rail. His driver and fireman spilled the coffee they were drinking, and set on the brake after reducing steam. Kerclunk, 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 kerclunk. With his front wheels off the tracks, they were now jumping along the ties down under the line. At long last he came to a stop. His driver and fireman got out to look. "Lonnie," said his driver, "you made me spill my wife's coffee that she so lovingly made for me. Now talk." Lonnie knew he was in trouble. "I'm sorry, sir. I tricked you into letting me go faster." "I think I hit something, sir." His fireman looked under Lonnie. "It's a big one. Open the cylinder cocks and put out the fire. We're going for a walk." The two men had to leave Lonnie alone for a long time. After a long time, workmen done for the day were now on their way back to the yard, only to find Lonnie stuck in place. "That's why we did not get a ride back, or any of our wood picked up. What happened here?" Lonnie was ashamed. "I came off the rails," he answered. The men were kind to Lonnie. "Never mind, big guy. The trees here can bring us all to a stop if they want to." Lonnie tried to smile, but he still felt bad for making the workmen walk back. Della came along to pick up the workmen and take them home. Then she came back to pull away his train. Next she came with new workmen, whose jobs it was to help Lonnie. The men looked under his frame. Sitting between the rails and his front wheels was a large log that Lonnie was now resting on top of. "It's a good thing you had stopped, Lonnie. If you had tried to push off it yourself, you could have ended up on your side. It would not be the first time it's happened." Della then moved back to couple up to Lonnie. My, to think a big, powerful Atlantic would need help from a little old Peckett like me." Lonnie did not say anything. He was too ashamed to say anything. The men cut as much of the log as they could, then they used ropes to hold the log down to the track. Lonnie watched the men lashing down the log. "Well now, that must be the ropes they were talking about showing me." With two hard pulls, Della was able to pull Lonnie off of the log. Then the men cut the log and used it to re-rail Lonnie. The two engines rolled back to the sheds together, with Della steaming proudly in front and Lonnie sulking behind.